In the latest chapter of One Piece, we meet Saint Maffy of the God's Knights, yet her name is written differently in the original Japanese text. While all of the celestial dragons in English are referred to as saints, in Japanese, they actually have two separate titles, Sei and Ku. Most of the celestial dragons we've encountered in the story go by Sei, such as Wokyuri Sei, Garingu Sei, or Charorossu Sei. But this title is not actually used for female celestial dragons, where Maffy's name in the original Japanese is Maffy Gu. And this, by the way, also confirms Imu's true gender. Maffy isn't alone in this, as all the way back in Sabaody, we were introduced to Charles's little sister, Saint Charlia, and already back then, her name in the original Japanese is written as Sharia Gu. With the recent release of volume 112, Gunko's real name was also confirmed as Gunko Gu. It is therefore pretty much 100% clear that in Japanese, Sei refers to male celestial dragons, while Gu refers to female celestial dragons, which also definitively confirms that Imu is in fact a male. In chapter 1086, Ivankov states that one of the 20 kings who founded the world government 800 years ago went by the name of Saint Nerona Imu, and in Japanese, Imu here is referred to as Imu Sei. Before 2025, it wasn't yet confirmed that the honorifics Sei and Gu in Japanese referred to gender, as the only named female celestial dragon in the story was Charlia. This was not something I realized myself, but a YouTuber by the name of Kabiru D. Rat made a valid point that there was no proof that Sei and Gu were gendered honorifics, and that Gu could very well have not referred to the character's gender, but the character's age. Charlia was not only the only named female celestial dragon, she was also the only named celestial dragon who was underage. Furthermore, in Japanese, the kanji Gu is actually genderless, and has traditionally been used to refer to both princess and princesses. Still, I'm sorry to say, but it turns out that Mr. Kabiru is in fact wrong. With the revelation of Gunko and Maffy's full names, when it comes to One Piece, Gu in Japanese does not refer to just child celestial dragons, but very clearly just to females, as Maffy is very visibly an adult, and Gunko is actually one of the oldest characters in all of One Piece. We've now also been introduced to well over a dozen male celestial dragons, who all bear the title Sei, so at this point, it is basically impossible for Imu to be anything but a male. Or is it? There is a chance, however small, that just like what happened with Kabiru's video, history will also end up proving this video wrong, where the game is not yet completely over for the idea that Imu is female. When Ivankov in the manga talks about Imu, he talks about the founding king who created the world government over 800 years ago. Let me however ask a very simple question. How do we know that this Imu was actually the first Imu? In the Elbaf arc, we have learned that Imu has an incredibly special ability, where Imu can possess other people. Even though she is half a world away, Imu is able to take full control of Gunko's body, move her around, talk through her, and even make her use his abilities. Ivankov's words ultimately only mean that one of the founders had the name Imu, but we genuinely still have no idea what Imu truly is. And there is a very real possibility that just like Gunko, Nerona Imu was just a body the true Imu took over during the Void Century. And the thing is, it would actually be perfectly in character for Imu to do something like this. Imu is without a doubt the most paranoid character in all of One Piece. The government is willing to assassinate kings and wipe out entire countries just to keep his identity a secret. But Imu's paranoia goes even further, where he in many ways does not even trust the other celestial dragons. Even when making plans with them, Imu does not even enter the same room as the 5 elders, but talks to them through a Denden Mushi. But what is even more telling is that Imu seemingly has placed a kill switch on all of the elders, so that he can personally eliminate them if he needs to. What's more, not all of the celestial dragons are even aware of Imu's existence, and this is something Imu has seemingly only revealed to their top-ranking members. The reason why Imu is so paranoid even among his own people could very well be that these are not even his people to begin with. This entity who uses the name Imu could very simply be using the body and identity of Saint Nerona Imu to run the world government, where the elders and the God's Knights who know of him believe that Imu is one of them, and that they are simply following the orders of one of the founding kings. Yet this could all just be another lie, where no one alive truly knows who Imu is except Imu. There would definitely be some sweet irony or karma here, where the world government has twisted the truth and covered lies for their entire existence. But in fact, it could be that the one who claims to be their leader has themselves been feeding the government a lie since the very beginning. There is also still something inarguably feminine going on with Imu's character. Out of all the celestial dragons, Imu chose Kunko, a female, as their vessel. Further, when Imu takes full control of Kunko's body, Kunko actually becomes even more feminine by somehow growing longer hair. I don't want to get too stereotypical, but Imu also spending so much time in a room full of butterflies is also not exactly the most masculine thing to do. It would definitely be very funny if all this intrigue and mystery around Imu's gender is really just a drawn-out punchline to a revelation where Sanji will just find Imu hot once the Straw Hats finally encounter her. For the sake of fairness, I do however want to point out that there is still a strong argument that Imu is just Saint Nerona Imu, the male founding king who lived during the Void Century and somehow found a way to be immortal. This is because of the way Imu talks, where he literally adds mu to his sentences, which could indicate that the name Imu is something very personal to him, and not just something Imu stole from another person. Still, this could also be another case of Japanese wordplay, where mu in Japanese can for example be read as the kanji of nothingness. Very interestingly, this very kanji was used in the Harley text when referring to the second world, where it is said that this era of history began with a breath from nothingness. I think this is actually a big point in favor of the earlier theory. The events of the Second World are at this point all but confirmed to refer to the Great War that took place during the Void Century. This passage could therefore well indicate that Imu may well have been some special entity that came from this nothingness, and that they simply took control of Saint Nerona Imu and used him to lead the allied nations and to create the world government. Whatever Imu is, I am however confident that deep down they are an actual person. Imu only has a few scenes so far in the entire manga, but in most of these scenes, Imu actually shows a lot of human emotion, be it anger, pride, fear, or even possibly sadness. This in my opinion is one of the best things about One Piece, even though this is an insanely supernatural world, full of wonders and forces far beyond what we have in real life. The people of the One Piece world are at the end of the day just people. I think Whitebeard said it best in Marineford when he was stabbed by Squart. Even though the world calls him a monster, Whitebeard is just one man with one heart. So, ultimately, while the original Japanese confirms that Imu, the founding king from 800 years ago, was a male, Imu's ability to possess others still leaves the door open, where we still hundreds of chapters after Imu's introduction don't truly know what Imu is. Even if he's female, genderless, an alien, or even some sort of demon. I would however bet that Imu, despite all their power, is ultimately just a person. I would also argue that based on the few hints we've gotten in the story, Imu is not even the most abnormal or inhuman character in the manga, but that Marshall D. Teach was in fact born with powers Imu could never have, and that it is actually Blackbeard who is the single most special being in One Piece. If you're interested, you can click here to watch my video on why Blackbeard is really the character to keep an eye on over Imu, and why he is the only character ever to eat multiple devil fruits. I really appreciate all the loot I've gotten from my channel members. Thanks a lot for the support, but also thanks to everyone else who watched this video to the end.